All right, we're live. Welcome back, everybody. This is our Chai with Coaches. This is the second week of February-ish. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Welcome back. I'm Drew B. Harrell, my co-host
Nahid Oberfeld.
and also co-coach. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. Join us again. Today, we're talking about perfection and how we can balance perfection, wanting to be perfect, with actually getting things done. Because a lot of times, perfection can hold us back, right, Nahid?
Absolutely. What is that saying? I don't always get it right. Something, the enemy of good is perfect, the enemy of getting it done is perfect, right? How many times do we stop ourselves from getting it done because we want to be perfect?
Yep, absolutely. I think I think people get caught up with the whole being good enough type thing or being good, and having good be the enemy of great. But at the same time, great doesn't mean perfect either. You can be great and not be perfect. So
And who is?
not anyone I know, honestly. So it's pretty fun. I mean, thinking about things in terms of that and allowing it's freeing actually, allowing yourself to be imperfect and embracing imperfection because we're human. I mean, we are by definition, by default, imperfect.
Not me. I've been perfect for a while.
Yes, until we start talking about movies or technology or
Technology.
cars, apparently nowadays.
Yeah,
So,
that too. So let me ask you this question, Drew. Where have your perfectionistic tendencies held you back?
how long do we have here? What, 7 hours, 8 hours? So
10 seconds or less.
I think the easiest answer, the easiest, most accessible thought for me is my YouTube channel. Honestly, I mean, I started this channel last year in 2020. One of the few good things that came out of 2020, and it honestly was something I was planning on doing for a while. It was something that I thought about. I had tossed around in my head so many times, and I'm like, oh, I want to do videos. I want to do videos. I want to do a video about coaching. I want to do a video about this interaction with a client. Like these really really cool things I want to share. These ideas that I want people to know about. Well, whether it's about coaching, whether it's about business, whether it's about just life in general. And I kept stopping myself. I would even film videos, and then I watch like, oh, I can't possibly publish that. Like, there's no way I can publish that because either I look too tired or my hair's not right or whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't look right. I don't sound right. My video quality is not great. My sound quality is not great. I had this mic and I still was like, oh, well the mic sounds good, but I don't sound great. And it's just, I made all these excuses where it's like, it wasn't absolutely perfect. And honestly, it wasn't until COVID hit that I was like, look, I'm just going to do it. Screw it. Let's just go ahead and do it. And honestly, it was something that Gary Vee said in a couple of his videos. He says it all the time, but just put it out there. It doesn't matter if it's imperfect or not. But he was saying that for years, and I was watching it, and I was still like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it eventually. I'll do it eventually. And I kept putting it off. And finally, I just did it. And I was like nervous as hell when I put it out there because I'm like, people are going to laugh. People are going to be like, whatever. No one laughed. No one said anything. Actually, it got 0 reviews, and no one actually watched it. But the point being that it wasn't a big deal. And eventually, I'm doing it now. I actually love this kind of stuff. It's actually been a cool outlet, and so it's fun at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is what I tell myself, but I also tell my clients this all the time. When we have these strong desires that bring the butterflies up in our stomach, to me, these are soul driven. What that means is that yes, you're going to have hiccups. Yes, there's going to be a learning curve. There always is. Otherwise, it would be quite boring, frankly. But this is what there's a bigger part of you is that is saying, do it, you can do it, and it's going to be just fine. And I think that this medium actually suits you perfectly. It brings out your personality, it helps you connect because so many people are listening to these videos of you giving advice. And just think about it. They're being validated. They feel good about listening to you. Think about all of those things that would never have happened if you hadn't made this decision.
Yeah, no, I mean, and like I said, I really enjoy this right now. I mean, it's fun. It's a great way to get the message out there and talk to folks and interact with people without actually having to meet them in person. And it's a
You
great
don't
medium.
like meeting people in person, right?
No, I hate it. I'm totally agoraphobic, obviously. um, No, but as you were talking, the other thing that comes to mind is I almost want to say sometimes it can be fear driven in the other way, right? It's fear driven in the sense that I don't want to do something that I'm afraid doesn't mean enough, that I'm going to push through the bumps, right? Like if you like, let's say for example, you want this YouTube video thing, for example, right? My YouTube channel. let's say I started that and I talked to folks about it and I told my friends, hey, I'm going to start this YouTube channel, right? And I did it and there were hiccups and whatever. And then I ended up quitting. I'm gonna look like an idiot because I quit, and I don't want to look bad because I quit because it didn't
Mhm.
mean enough to me, right? To keep pushing through, and that's where I think resolve comes in, right? How strong is your resolve about whatever it is you're going to do, whatever that thing is, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether it's a whatever, it's a powerful thing to do, to actually focus on your resolve and really, like you said, lean into what your soul's telling you to do, right? Lean into what you want people to do, and what you want to do for yourself, and then embrace that and really push through all those difficulties, because nothing's easy, like just going to be an easy cakewalk that's worth having, right? And so these things, especially entrepreneurship, ownership, whatever that is, your career is not, there's nothing that's going to be like laid out for you for your entire life. And if it is, it's probably not worth having.
It's definitely not going to stretch you. I agree. I would add one little caveat though, because this is something that I spent 2020 really focusing on. Definitely, all of us need resolve. There's no two ways about that. However, I do feel that there is right timing and there's right mindset. And what I mean by that is if you're doing something repetitively and you're banging your head against the wall and things are not moving forward, there's no progress, I think it's really important at that time to stop and ask yourself, okay, what needs to be changed? What am I not getting in here? Because oftentimes I see people who work really hard. They push all the buttons inside of them to really power through, but they're disappointed with the results. And then the question is, hey, maybe it's time to take a step back and look at, is this the right way of doing it? Um, why is it not working out over a lengthier period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. And by no means was I advocating pushing through and keep doing the same thing over and over again, because doing that is just going to be acting insane. But yes, I completely agree with you. It's something where, it every hiccup you hit, right? You got to look at what the cause of that hiccup is. Is it something you're doing? Is it something you could be doing more or less of, or is it something external, right? If something external, look at what that thing is as well, and always take the source into consideration. I sound like my dad. My dad says that all the time, and it's like ringing in my head. Take the source into consideration.
Full
God.
circle.
Yeah, full circle, absolutely. And if my brother or anyone in my family is watching this right now, they'll hear my dad saying that in his voice. Take the source into consideration, and he does the point thing, that
The whole finger pointing.
the middle finger point, which he does.
Oh,
Not
middle finger. That's
the,
new.
no, that's what he does. That's what he does. It's just actually really funny. But anyway, but I think he stopped doing that now because we gave him feedback on that. But you can do this, and like that doesn't mean what you think it means. But no, it's
Cultural
like,
relevance.
yeah, exactly. Cultural awareness, right? Um, but no, I mean, so what about you, Nihi? What are some things where perfection has held you back, or perfection has been the enemy of good enough?
Hmm. Hmm. Talks. I give presentations a lot. And there's a part of me that actually enjoys giving presentations. I'm in Toastmasters, I'm in BNI, I do a lot of public speaking. But the truth of the matter is, if you saw the preparation that I go through for these presentations, you would think I'm like briefing the president or something like that. And, I couldn't understand why, because for every talk that I give, I literally write out my entire script. Now, I don't follow the script, but I need to write it out in order to feel prepared. And then I practice, practice, practice. And for me, it came down to what happened when I was young and I was in school, and I felt like I got very strongly judged, punished, let's say, by my teachers in India because I wasn't prepared enough for something. And that's been drilled into my head so much that now I have to stop and take a step back and say, okay, I'm not in school. I'm not being graded. And I'm just going to sound like a robot if I just memorize an hour's worth of speech. So I always have to go through that process and say, this is today, whatever happened yesterday, not yesterday, 30, 40 years ago, is no longer relevant. But for me, it really becomes apparent when I give talks or when I prepare for any kind of public speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, and honestly, if you think about it, if you think about it, and you're thinking about, like, say a bag of Doritos, right? They don't actually. Would you take a chip and be like, "Oh, this chip is off. It's not
Right.
the right. It's
It's
not the right.
like,
Not the right. Shape or whatever. I'm not going to eat that chip." I'm gonna throw
It's
that away.
misshapen.
Yeah,
Being the Indian, I will be like, if that's cheaper, I will buy it.
there you go. Right, if it's damaged Dorito, you'll buy it. But I'm talking about the actual. You're not gonna look inside the bag anyway, right? You're not gonna sit there and be like, let me open every bag and make sure every single chip is
Every
exactly
single chip is
the
perfectly
right.
aligned.
Yeah, and then what would you look for? Would you look for the equilateral triangles? Are you looking for what are the what's the criteria?
Isosceles.
Isosceles. There you go. There you go. Right. So you have your criteria for what's perfect, and then if I'm looking for equilateral or I'm looking for right angle triangles, then it's just like. But I mean, thinking about stuff like that, like people we don't we look at it for ourselves. We hold ourselves to this impossible standards, and we end up not getting things done because of that. It holds us back in our growth, holds us back in our personal growth, professional growth, business growth. It really can hold you back, and it's I'll echo Gary Vee in saying, look, it's worth getting. If you have content, you have things that you think is valuable, a message that's valuable to people, put it out there. Give it a shot and see what happens. Worst case, you get some feedback to change things.
Exactly.
So what? I mean, what happens then? Then you just iterate, make it better, right? Life is iteration. I mean, it's all about adapting, and then also take the source into consideration. I can't get my dad's voice out of my head.
I actually had this conversation with a young client of mine who's a writer. Just had this conversation this morning. She was telling me about how her first draft sucks, right? So she's writing and her first draft sucks. And I was like, okay, sucks in comparison to what? She's like, it sucks in comparison to the final product. I'm like, well, there's a reason why it's the first draft and not the final product. So why are you judging it with the same eyes? The first draft is never meant to be the final product. It's like making a cake. You're halfway in the middle of putting all the ingredients together, and you're like, this sucks. This looks like a gelatinous mess. It's never going to turn out. So let me just quit right here. Right?
100%.
Hmm?
I said 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't think about it from those perspectives. Like we judge ourselves from a kind of a moving target. Like, what are we judging ourselves from? Have we ever stopped and considered that this is our first time or even our fifth time doing it? We're judging ourselves when you look at people who may have done it 100 or 200 times.
Right. Exactly. And it goes back to that other phrase, like, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Right. I mean,
I've never heard of that. I really like that one. Is that another movie reference?
it is not. It is a meme reference, actually. So,
Another thing that I don't do is get onto social media to look at memes.
yeah. So memes, TV, movies, songs, less the latter, but more the
I'm
movies.
kind of underneath. I just live under a rock, if you're wondering.
It's all good. I can. I'll fill in the pop culture references for you whenever.
Exactly. That's all I need.
There you go. I can be your pop culture consultant. There you go. You just bring me in as needed. Um, but no, it's like, look, you can't sit there and say, like, when you said your client said compared to the final draft, right? It's not, it's terrible, it's horrible, it sucks.
Sucks was her
My
word.
question sucks. It sucks. Fine. It sucks compared to the final draft. My question would be, what is it? Where's the final draft? Show me the final draft.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have it yet. So how do you know it sucks? Right? How do you know that it sucks? Is it conveying stuff? Are you getting feedback from anyone else other than yourself? I mean, I think we're our worst. We are our own worst critic. So we're always going to think that stuff we do is either not good enough or could be changed here and there or whatever. So you always take the source into consideration. Take yourself into consideration, right? Like, um, are you actually dealing with the thing properly? Are you thinking about it in terms of what's the context of it, right? Where am I in the process? Like you said, talking about, like, it's like baking a chocolate cake, for example, right? The final product of that cake with all the icing and everything on it, or if you don't like icing, you can scrape it off. That's fine too. But if you have the final product being an amazing looking chocolate cake, and you start with, forget the gelatinous mess. Even before that, you have eggs, milk, and flour. This is not this cake sucks. No shit, it's not a cake yet, right? It's still just ingredients. You're putting all together to make it into what you want it to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's just something where it's perspective. It's looking at things in such a way that you're actually looking at things in a productive way, as opposed to holding yourself back, right? And stopping yourself from doing these things further.
Yeah, and that's such a human quality. So I have a dog, as I think I mentioned before. She's now been with us for 4 months, and she's only 45 pounds. Now it's a pretty big dog. It's not. I mean, it's not a huge dog, but she loves to drag sticks. And now she's gotten on to 6 foot, 7 foot long logs. Nobody has told her, and certainly she hasn't told herself, that she cannot drag these things, and she will do everything she can until she gives up. I really admire her spunk because it doesn't bother her. Nobody's told her she can't do anything. And until she tries it and she figures it out herself, she's going to keep on doing it. And I wish we could sometimes take out our, let's call it reasoning, but it's really not the reasoning part of us. It's just the fear based part of us that says, you know what, let's not do it. It's so much more comfortable to stay in our comfort zone and not get any bigger. But then our inner desires, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. This inner part of us is just motivating us, it's pushing us into something bigger.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I was thinking about the reasoning thing. It's these false associations we create for ourselves, right? And it's fear based. It's like you have the elephant, right? When as a baby elephant in the circus, whatever you feel about circus, is a good illustration of what happens. Though you have a baby elephant that's tied to a wooden post that's in the ground. The wooden post is maybe like this big, and it works well for a baby elephant. But as the elephant grows bigger and bigger and bigger, it can easily just pull that damn post out. But it doesn't know that because it's trained in its head that it's the same size as it always was. It doesn't see itself in the mirror, so it doesn't know how big it is compared to the post. So it doesn't know how strong it is. And so we create these like little associations as like in your situation, in your story, as a child, you create these associations with pain or with the inability to do something, and you don't account for growth in that belief when you keep that going. And so you have this idea of imperfection of what you kind of how you define yourself, right? What is your identity? Who are you? Oh, for example, me, like I'm not a morning person. I say that all the time. In reality, I just don't like getting up in the morning early. I can do it if I really, really am motivated, if I want to. I just don't like it at all, like not even a little bit. And so, but if I do it, I mean, it's like I'm not incapable of it. I'm not like it's not like 8 a.m. is not possible for Drew to get up. It's not likely. It's possible, but it's not likely. That's the difference, right? And so for you,
That
it's
begs
like
the question, what time do you wake up?
let's not go there.
Okay.
That's not, so let's not go there. But the point being, um, as we're holding ourselves back, as we create this identity for ourselves, we define ourselves by these arbitrary things that we've created over time, and
Yeah.
those beliefs, those pieces of our identity are not actually our identity. They're actually just beliefs they're serving us somehow, and they may not be serving us in all the ways we want us to serve. And so they've gotten us to where we are now, but they're not going to get us to the next level. They're going to actually hold us back from getting to where we want to be, which is that next level of whatever it is, business, professional, personal, whatever that looks like.
I'll even take that one step further because I completely agree with you. Some of the people that I've been seeing in my practice are coming in with decades of depression and anxiety, starting from the time that they were kids, they've been in therapy. And what I'm beginning to understand is while there's, a lot of legitimate reasons why people are in depression from a brain chemical imbalance perspective, at least these people, that's not where they are. They have been told over and over and over again that who they are somehow is not good enough, is not right. What their profession is or what they choose and how they choose to live their life is not the right way, right? And so they have started separating who they authentically are from themselves because of the message being told that this is not right for me. And so it's not just a matter of holding you back personally and professionally, which is huge, that's your life. But on top of that, it also could contribute to depression and anxiety because you're constantly hitting your head against something where you feel like this is me, but I've been told it's not, I'm not allowed to be this.
Yeah. I mean, I keep doing these catchphrases, but really it is. It's like judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. It's always going to feel like a failure if it can't do that, right? But it's one of the things that, like you said, but over time that chemical imbalance does come up. It creates that chemical imbalance over time,
Mm-hmm.
or it can anyway, right? And
Yeah.
that's how depression can become a very serious thing for someone. You tell someone that they can't do something long enough, they're going to believe it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or that they're wrong for doing something or believing something, that they're going to believe that. And that's why a lot of these things are really, really dangerous in terms of giving that reinforcement, telling someone they're stupid their entire life. After a while, I'm like, hey, I'm stupid. I'm just going to only aspire to what stupid people can do or whatever. And lose confidence in themselves and not even try to do better or do more than they're able to do. And you mentioned authenticity, and that's a that in itself is a much longer conversation. I mean, that could probably go for days by itself. But authenticity is something that people kind of tend to hide behind sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just being authentic. I'm just being me. I'm not that thing. I'm not." But authenticity and complacency are two different things, right? There's a distinction between saying, "I am." Like for example, I'm a nerd, movie TV nerd, right? I love this kind of things. I love all that stuff, right? It doesn't mean I'm only that and nothing else, and it also doesn't mean that I can't be more of that or more authentically that's something else, right? I don't have to be something that I'm not or try to be something that I'm not to do or to accomplish anything. But people tend to say, "Oh, I'm just not that. I'm just not that person. I'm just not that person," or "I'm an introvert. I can't possibly network," right? Case in point, Nahid. You're an introvert. You still network,
I am an introvert, yes.
and you still have a great network.
It's a hidden secret, which is not so hidden anymore.
You said
But
it on this channel before.
yes, I certainly didn't want to get onto YouTube. You invited me, and I didn't have a good enough excuse in the moment.
There you go, right? But you also have an amazing network, right? I mean,
I
I've seen
do.
people in your network, and it's not
I,
like good.
no, I was going to say, and I forced myself to give presentations. But I will tell you something, as you were talking, has nothing to do with work. But I think I've mentioned this before. I am afraid of water. Okay, growing up, I was terrified of water. My mom somehow or the other found this big giant donut that she would put on my head. It was like this, and so when I would shower and she'd wash my hair, the water wouldn't come on my face. It would only stay up on my head, right? So I mean, I was that scared of water. And growing up in my teen years, but I love water. That's the ironic part. I love being by water. I'm a water sign. I'm a Scorpio. But growing up as a teen, I convinced myself I hated being by the beach. I hated being by water because that was my justification for not wanting to get into the water or not going to the beach or any of that. And it was truly just an extremely strong fear that I wasn't willing to face at that time that kept me from going to the water. And I know I'm going to sound really silly here. So for the first time in probably 20 years, I went to the beach when I got married. And I had forgotten, I got into the water and I had forgotten what waves felt like because it had been so long. I was so convinced that I'm not a water person. I don't need to be in water. I didn't get into a swimming pool, didn't get into the beach. I'd actually forgotten how waves felt. That's
Yeah,
sad.
I mean, it's I don't know if it's sad, but it's something to look at. Right? I mean, it's like it's a thing. It happens. I
It's a
mean,
very
because
strong thing.
yeah, our beliefs we're a lot more powerful than we think we are, right? Like our minds are a lot. They can stop us from doing things just because we want to, just because we're afraid of doing them. Fear is a really powerful thing, and it's only as powerful as we let it be, right? But just to open it up to the folks that are watching, if anyone has any, if this resonates in any way, what's how is being perfect holding you back? How is wanting to be perfect holding you back, or how has it held you back in the past? Feel free to drop the comments or questions in the chat as we're talking. But we want to also answer questions or address or bring up, is this resonating for you guys? But like you said, it's just something where it's like you have these beliefs that we create in our heads, like oh, this thing has to be perfect before we submit it or before we put it out there into the world. And that belief alone is going to stop you from doing this thing, right? It's going to stop you from putting all this stuff out there. Think about all the things that might have never been created if they weren't put out there as imperfect, right? And then think about other things too, like for example, the first computer, right? You could argue that first computer was not perfect. It wasn't perfect, but you how do you measure that though? Do you measure it by today's standards or do you measure it by back then standards, right? What standards are you using? By whose standards are you saying something is perfect? They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's 100% true because it's subjective, right? Perfection is even subjective. And people say that there's a perfect person out there for everybody. Whatever you want to say about that, but it's something where it's like where I find perfection, you may be like that's weird,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa, right? And so it's something where it's like you're looking at things with your own lens, with your own experiences, your own beliefs, your own hopes, dreams, all that stuff, right? All your entire story informs how you see things in the world.
Yeah. And
And
I also think perfection is a moving goal.
yes, I mean, it's something to aspire to, but you're never going to achieve perfection, right? But you get as close as you can to it.
True, but the problem is also you people use that as an excuse. Oh, this is not good enough. This is not good enough. But what people don't realize is the more you do something, the more experienced you get at it, your expertise at it is just going to keep growing. So as you said, you cannot judge what you're doing today the first couple of times to what you might do, for the 10th or the 100th time type of thing. There's
Yeah.
there's got to be that curve, that learning curve.
Yeah. Kendra, thanks for sharing. Go being perfect stops me from being able to appreciate the progress I've attained. Absolutely. Right. Because you lose sight of things. I mean, we get tunnel vision. We keep looking at this one thing way over there. It feels like it's far away, but we get so focused on that, we don't see anything else. We don't see how far we've gotten from where we started. I'll give another example of that is like I was giving feedback to a colleague of mine, and he sent me to this forum, and I was looking at it, and I was like, oh hey man, you spelled planner wrong on this thing, and he's like, oh, thanks for letting me know, man. Sorry about that. And then he sent me back an email a few minutes later. He's like, hey, I didn't see where I spelled planner wrong. Where did I spell it? He's like, how do you spell it? He's like, haha. He's like, I'm not seeing it. So I look at it, and there's two places where planner appears. He spelled it right the first time, but the second one he didn't. I was like, oh, sorry, man. I should have specified it's the second one that you spelled it wrong. He's like, oh, I wasn't even looking at that second one. I was looking at the first one, and he was so focused on the first one, he didn't even see the second one. So, I mean, something as simple as that is a great example of how we get lost in our own stories or what we're programmed to look for, right? Like Andrea said, you're looking at this aspirational goal way down there, right? And even though you're getting closer and closer and closer to it, you're not looking back. You're not seeing how far you've come or how far your progress has made or where you're at compared to where you started. You're only seeing that goal that still feels so far away because you're not there yet. And you can get impatient and start judging yourself.
I really like the use of the word appreciation. Not allowing ourselves to appreciate what we have accomplished. I thought that message was really on point because I think perfection and appreciation really do go hand in hand. We don't appreciate the simple steps that we're taking, right? Because it's one step at a time. And we stop ourselves from appreciating how far we've come. Look how much we have learned. Thomas Edison famously took him 1,000 tries to get the light bulb to the current standards that we're still using some 150 years later.
Yeah.
And when somebody asked him, what do you feel about failure? He's like, that wasn't failure, that was feedback. What are you talking about? Show me what you have created, and then we'll see how many times it will take you.
Yeah, he's like, I discovered 999 ways not to make a light bulb.
Right.
Not, and it took me that to get to the one that I discovered how to do it. And it's an interesting way to look at things, right? I mean, there's a point where you start like, oh, that's just optimism, but it's not. It's really reframing, right? There's a powerful way to reframe things and to really just talk, look at things differently and say, look, I've made so much progress. Look at where I was last year, and it's good to do that retrospective and take a step back and say, okay, let's take stock of this year. Let's take stock of the last 5 years or the last 10 years or just the last 6 months sometimes. And just say, like, let me check in and see where I'm at right now. How am I doing right now versus how I was doing back then? Oh,
So
wait, I didn't even realize I did the X, Y, and Z in these last few months, right? Yes, I'm not all the way over there where I was planning on going, where my goal is, but I've still gotten so much further than where I thought I was.
So let's take a moment, Drew. And how do you feel about your YouTube channel and appreciate how far you've come?
Well, I mean, recently I've hit quite a few subscribers, which I'm excited about. So I'm super excited about that. But I mean, I think there's definitely been progress. I mean, if you watch my first video versus my newer videos, it's huge progress. Understatement. But I'm just like, I very much appreciate. I mean, I appreciate folks like you, Nahid, and other guests that I've had to come on, and that's helped me grow my channel, helped me kind of figure out also how I want to do it, and how I want to do more of those interviews, more of those conversations. Um, yes, I like doing the single videos just of me, but I really prefer the interaction videos more. And I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't given it a shot, and I hadn't done a YouTube interview before I did my first one. And again, you can see the growth and the difference in the first ones versus now. And I'm not perfect now, still, absolutely not. very, 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 very far from that.
I think you're pretty
But
close.
well, thank you, I appreciate it. But I still think that I'm like I've made a lot of progress. I'm really happy with where things are right now. I owe a lot to Hannah as well because she's been kicking ass, and my first intern Samantha. Both of them killed it, helping me to grow this, and I would not have been able to do it without them. So I really, really, I'm proud of where I'm at, where I am. I'm very appreciative. I'm very grateful to my friends, to my support staff, my other colleagues and other guests that I've had on here, and just people who just are my cheerleaders as they go through. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear even from the uh, your viewers. Who are the people who feel like have pushed them to get beyond their fears? Right. I have a little magnet on my fridge. I'm trying to remember something. It goes something like, "Who are the gardeners who help you grow your field of desires?" Right? Every one of us has somebody who actually believes in us. Are you laughing at me?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at a reference in my head. Another meme, believe it or not. While people are typing in the chat, I can tell you what the meme says. It's a it's an image, and it's one of those old timey images that they have, and it says, "Behold
Mm-hmm.
the field in which I grow my term is fucks, and behold it's barren, as in I have no fucks to give." So just sorry, that's what I was thinking about as you were saying that. I apologize, but yes, for those
So
people who watch
this
these.
field is not barren.
No, it's not. It's not at all. But it's a funny meme. But yes, for those of you watching, please feel free to throw in the comments. Or even just take stock for yourself, even if whether you want to comment or not, for yourself, for your own growth, for your own ability. Take stock of one who in your life supports you, who in your life helps you to get where you helped you and continues to help you where you are and get where you are right now. And on top of that, look back at the last year, the last 6 months, the last 5 years, go as far back as you need to, but look at how much you've grown in the last 5 years, in the last 3 years, in the last year. I know folks who have doubled their business in the last 2 years. Folks who've tripled this, and it's not. A lot of people tend to attribute that to other people and to other things. And yes, it's great to respect and appreciate and be grateful for things other people have done. But at the same time, it's your business. It wouldn't be there without you, right? It wouldn't exist at all without you, right? So contributions are absolutely worth appreciating and being grateful for, but also appreciate yourself and the work you've put in yourself personally to get where you are, because none of that would have been possible without that.
Yeah, I think you said it really well because it's our life. We are making the effort. We're making the decision to move beyond these old limiting beliefs. I mean, we've had so many conversations about limiting beliefs, and really, when we're talking about perfection, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about just yet another limiting belief, keeping us stuck, keeping us from moving forward. And at the end of the day, I'm thinking a lot, and I was talking to my mom about this. I said, we have this one life. So let's read this message. So, letting go of the idea of perfection was a game changer for me starting about 3 years ago. I'm now able to appreciate where I am, exactly where I'm supposed to be in this very moment. And that sounds perfect, Candria. To
Yeah,
finally feel comfortable in your skin, feel comfortable where you are, I'd say most people never get there. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. And to kind of finish my thought on this one, I was talking to my mom. So, we have a very limited amount of time on this planet. Doesn't matter whether you believe in past lives or not, you, as your individual personality, is never going to come back to this planet. How do you want to spend your life? What kind of experience do you want? How much are you going to let fear drive you? How much are you going to let these beliefs or these messages, these are messages we pick up when we're young. How much are these messages going to continue to drive you? It's one thing if you're an elephant and you cannot rationalize through these messages. We're not that. We have the ability to be able to decide how we want to choose to live our lives. And I think that's the most powerful thing that we can do.
100%. 100. I think you said it beautifully. And to reiterate what you said to Kendra, thank you for sharing, Kendra. That's awesome. And I fully agree with you. We are, whether we like it or not, we are exactly where we need to be, right? We are exactly where we need to be for some purpose. We don't have to know the purpose right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? The purpose, we get impatient. I get impatient. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I definitely get impatient with myself and my business and things, and happening not as fast as I want them to, right? But that's That's natural for people who aspire and want to grow and keep building. But we got to appreciate sometimes, just take a second and realize that we are exactly where we want, where we need to be. Whether we
Mhm.
want to be there or not, we are where we need to be. And we're exactly where we're supposed to be to keep moving forward, to keep growing. And to dovetail on what you said, Nahid, letting fear drive you, you're never going to get what you want if you let fear drive you. Just not going to happen. I mean, imagine a bag of Doritos right in front of you, right? And you're like, I want those Doritos. Okay, I want those Doritos. Okay, but I'm afraid of picking up the bag. Well, then you're not going to get the Doritos. Simple as that. You got to pick up the bag and eat the Doritos. That's all it comes down to. You can't sit there and be like, I want that, and then expect someone to give it to you, right? It's something where you have to go after what you want. If you know what you want, go after it. If you don't know what you want, take some time to figure out what you want. Don't just coast through life and expect that what you want's going to come to you, or suddenly by some miracle you'll suddenly know what you want someday without ever investigating yourself, because you'll get it and you won't even know it's there. You may end up losing it or something.
Yeah, and that's it. I think when I think about the biggest regrets that I've had in my life, it's about the things that I knew I wanted, but I was too scared to go after it. You know, I'm just thinking back to high school, all the crushes that I never had the confidence to be able to just even go up and say hello. Now I know in high school I probably would have felt like I would have been crushed, like life would have been over as I knew it, right? If somebody rejected me. But today, I wish I had done that because I know that I would not have died. I might have died of humiliation and embarrassment in the moment, but those things pass, and I would have felt a lot prouder for myself if I had actually gone out there and actually said and done something, which makes me do it now because I don't want to go back to that place of not wanting to be proud of what I did. So we are happy to have our friend Sage. The courage to change status quo and take that first step is tough. It sure is.
It definitely is. Absolutely. And it is a risk, right? There's always that risk. Someone's not going to like what you did or what you said or what you put out there.
Or
Or
they're
else.
not gonna like you, right? They're like,
Or they don't like you.
sorry, not you.
Yeah. And that's natural. You're not going to please everybody all the time, right? But if you don't take that step to put that out there, I mean, I think of the phrase like, what you do in this world will ultimately be insignificant, but it's very important you do it, right?
Yeah.
Every little contribution matters and it helps, and it's really important to realize that. And your point, Nahid, you being exactly where you need to be, there's a reason you didn't approach those guys in high school, because you're married to a cool guy right now, and you might not have worked out the same way, right? So there's always that.
Yeah, yeah. Everything works out one step at a time, but you gotta have the courage to say I'm worth it. You gotta have the courage to reach out for that bag of, let's say, samosas. I'm not a big Doritos fan, but I
Yes,
do love
you can't be fond of
samosas.
that. I thought you were cool, Nahid, and now we just, this podcast is going to be over now. This is our last episode.
I can assure
We
you,
are
Indian snacks
ending on
are
a
my
note.
weakness. Indian sweets are not, but
So
Indian
Indian
snacks.
sweets are my weakness as well too, though. I do love jalebi.
Oh, see, but I'm not an Indian sweets person. Too sweet. It's like too sugary. But I love snacks.
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't like snacks.
I do like snacks. I mean, samosas are amazing. I just got to say, but but I do love Doritos. How do you not love Doritos? I don't understand.
It gets your hands all sticky and that like. And the worst are those fake cheese things, Cheeto things. Ugh, that's like eating
There's this
chemicals.
new invention. It's called water and soap. And afterwards, what you do is if your hands get dirty, you just go to the sink, and we have running water here, so we can use that and just like wash our hands off, and then
I don't need to wash my
no
hands.
more
I have
stuff.
Lucy to lick it off.
And by the way, samosas have a ton of oil, which requires you to wash your hands afterwards. So there. Anyway,
Again, I have my dog. She's happy to lick it off.
there's that too. But we are actually at 40 minutes right now, so I didn't realize we got that far. But thank you all, everybody, for tuning in. Nihi, do you want to leave us with any last minute thoughts on this?
Yeah, take stock of where your beliefs are holding you back and something that you really want to do now. You don't even have to take action yet, but at least acknowledge where your beliefs are holding you back today. And then you can decide what that next step would be.
Love that. Yeah. And I want to say thank you to all the folks who tuned in and watched, and folks who commented. So Candria, Sage, James / Bill, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Awesome to have you guys here again. As always, thank you, Hannah, for being our director slash facilitator for this. And yeah, this is great times. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Let us know what you guys want to see in the future, topics wise. If you have questions or things you want us to cover, happy to talk about it. Happy to we can even do deep dives into situations if you have them. And even if you can keep the names out of it, it's fine. We can make it anonymous. But yeah, reach out. Let us know how we can help. Either way, we'll be here in 2 weeks again. And same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah, and just one quick clarification. We are only on Feb 11th, so this has only been week 1 of Feb, so we will see you on Feb 25th.
This is our first week in Feb, yes, but this is the second week of Feb.
Yes, it is the second week of Feb. We meet second and fourth week. As you can tell, we do a lot of this preparation ahead of time.
Yeah,
But
obviously.
looking forward to seeing everybody back in 2 weeks.
This conversation is obviously very scripted, in case anyone's wondering.
This is intentional.
Yes. All right, guys, listen, take care, stay safe, and if you like the video, hit subscribe, let us know how we can help, and see you guys in 2 weeks.